Okay. Hey there, and welcome back. Well-behaved women, welcome you back. I am still Michelle Thompson Scott,
I'm still Olivia.
and we have
Hiya.
our guest back again, Miss Jeneece Tatum.
Hello. Hi.
Um, and I have to say that I invited her back because I was asked to please do so, because you were very interesting and contributed quite a bit to our conversation. So
Cool.
yeah. So whenever you're wanting to do it, you're welcome.
Okay, great. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Glad
I
to be
have
back.
I have an anonymous question that I want to throw out there right off the bat, um, and that has to do with a person who is like 100%, European white, and who is really working hard at trying to understand and recognize their own privilege. And she wanted to know if she has private thoughts that she recognizes as prejudiced but doesn't voice them, changes, recognizes the prejudice of them, and then never actually expresses those thoughts. Is she still prejudiced or bigoted?
I have an immediate thought. Yes, because everyone is prejudiced. Everyone has prejudice. I think it's important not to come down hard on ourselves especially when we have that awareness of what we're thinking and we're able to identify that as flawed thinking. I think it's good to at least continue with that much and continue honoring the feelings that are surrounding those thoughts. So if there's anger, if there's frustration or something, that the reason why maybe you might be projecting the anger, or you might be targeting that anger, probably very grounded in prejudice. And so if you know that that's wrong, and it's probably not what's causing the anger or frustration, it's good to kind of figure out and unpack those feelings a little bit and find out what it was exactly in that moment that was upsetting you or frustrating you. But I don't think you should chastise yourself for recognizing that you have prejudice, for recognizing that you're human.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I think the self-awareness is the first step. If you're actually aware that you have thoughts that even you would describe as not right, it's just time to educate yourself, just like anything else that you're not sure about and you want to know more about, or you want to know if how you feel is valid. I don't think you should beat yourself up, but I do think that the words that come out of people's mouths come from the way they think. So just because you're not saying it, it's not the words that have to change, it's the thought processes that have to change. And so all this awareness and education that's out there, you have some people that are going to tell you one thing and someone's going to tell you something else, and it's for you to find out for yourself, right? Dig into the history of things, try to find as many answers as you can, and that's what's going to change your thinking, not talking about it or not saying it out loud. That doesn't change your thinking.
Yeah. I think, for me, I relate it to my own journey in trying to not judge people, not on a racial basis, but how many times have you watched somebody, walk down the street and you're like, man, that person should not be wearing that pair of pants. And, and thinking that way and thinking, and then, and I've stopped myself thinking those types of thoughts all the time. But it's been a process of having to, continually stop myself and say, that isn't even my thought to have. It has nothing to do with me. And, whoever it is that's wearing whatever, they're rocking it because they're happy in what they're wearing. And that's really all that matters. And so it's those thoughts happen about not just race, but about a lot of other things that happen, and I think that it would behoove us to really look at all those situations that wherein we're thinking thoughts that um, that are harmful, or if they were actually expressed. And, I think it all comes from the same place, really.
Yeah, I think that usually when we have those thoughts, right, like that person should not be wearing this, they shouldn't be doing this activity, it usually has something to do with my own insecurities or my own what I believe to be our shortcomings and my own unhappiness.
Yeah.
And then if I realize that it is like on a racial level that I'm having, these thoughts are coming from a racial place or whatever, I think it's important to really kind of unpack why we would take it to a racial place, right? Because if you are at a place where you really believe that there are these distinctions and behaviors and, you know, behaviors that are frustrating or whatever, and they're tied to race, then you're at a place where you really believe that, people aren't created equal, and you need to really take a big step back and find that humility, I think, to I don't know, I think you're just at a place where you need to find some racial humility.
Yeah.
But
Self-confrontation. I've confronted myself on many areas of my life, and nothing that anyone else did or said brought me to that place. It was just the way I felt. And I think I was just believing things that I was fed instead of finding out for myself, just having that time to grow. I think everybody's trying to do that right now. I think everybody's trying to grow. So.
And that's good. I think that's a good thing. I think the more people can recognize that there is room for growth, the better off we're going to be. Okay, so
yeah.
Something new. We're taking our topics out of our thing here. So, back to school. Being an educator, and I watched the president's, not wasn't the president's, the vice president's press conference with Betsy DeVos and, all the people and the Dr. Burks with their mask and everything, and talking about how it's really going to be okay for all of us to go back to school in the fall. And really, we have to. We have to. And I'm wondering how you guys feel about that. I'm not happy about it.
I think you're making an experiment of our children, one, because we don't have enough information as it is. We're still figuring this whole virus out. It changes every day. I don't want to send my kids into an environment that I wouldn't even want to go into, and that's how I feel. Yes, do I think education is important? Do I think that group learning and do I think kids thrive in an environment? Yes, I do think they thrive in that environment. Do I think that environment is still going to be the same if they were to go back tomorrow? No. I think everything that attributes to them succeeding or being able to thrive will be gone. So they'll be distant. They won't be able to hug their teacher, or their teacher hug them, or interact with their friends the way they used to. Everything will be so clinical. There won't be one-on-one. There won't be small groups gathering off to the side. There won't be access to books that you can touch. There's going to be a lot to figure out. Do I think they can figure it out? Yes. Do I think it's going to be 100% safe? No. And I think even hearing, the rate of, only 47,000 kids may die, and out of all the schools resuming, I thought one is too many. I'm not sacrificing my kids to any system. I've also, not to be too long-winded, but I've also found out that there's an advantage to having my kids home. I'm able to educate them also, also able to sit down and bond with my kids and teach them things that don't get taught in school in a non-traditional sense. And I feel like they're actually responding to that. It's kind of called parents on a carpet to be more involved. They've struggled with the whole video, virtual learning, and so did I. I think a lot of companies had to learn how to do it a different way and found out it can be done and was done, effectively. And so I think embracing the fact that safety over funding or whatever's happening or whatever's spurring people to want children back in school right now before there's any um, evidence of what causes or doesn't cause this disease to spread is negligent. I think it's kind of foul, you know, and I think you got to look at what our reasoning is for wanting school to resume so quickly. Is it for daycare? Is it, you know, is it so you don't have to worry about them? And I understand that there's a need. So I get the other side. I just not at the sake of my kids' life.
I kind of think that we're fooling ourselves if we actually believe that they think it's about the kids. I think it's about getting parents that are not working, that are not able to work at home, back to work, getting them back into the manufacturing, getting them back into the into the food processing plants, all these places that they aren't able to go into now because they're home with their kids or because those places have been shut down. And they want to reopen the economy, and they want to get the economy back up, and it's going to be on the backs of the poor and their children that happens.
Yeah, I think this is something that I was talking to a friend about earlier this week, and it's this whole thing is this whole pandemic, right? It's just really brought to surface, I think, some really huge issues that we just have as a society, and how the support is really top heavy, and there's really not any support for the working parent. For, you know, there was nothing for people that are in a position that I was in just like, you know, 3-4 years ago, when I was serving tables, you know, and I'm still friends with a lot of these people, and, you know, they're still, if they're not choosing to stay unemployed or furloughed because they're making more on unemployment, they are at a point where it's like, you know, I risk my life, my health to go in now, or I risk them giving my job to someone else that is willing to.
Right.
That, you know, and to me that boils down to, you know, do I have to devalue my life in favor of your business because you don't have the support for me? You really don't care about me at all.
Right.
It's your business.
Right.
And I feel as though the way, you know, Betsy DeVos and that whole administration, you know, they're treating this institution like a business, and it's not a business, right? And I'm talking about education now. And so if they're having, and that's exactly how I see it, the way that you were saying, Mom, it's not about the kids. You can say that, but it's not about the kids. Right. Because if it were, then we would not be rushing it, and there would be a bigger push. There would be more funding for better or just more sufficient alternatives that is still satisfying, you know, like the love languages and all the support that kids do find in school that they don't often find at home.
Right. Right. And I think it's frustrating for me. I'm a teacher. You know, when all this started happening, and there was like this month and a half where teachers were like the big heroes of the COVID, and now all of a sudden we're like vilified because we're being selfish because we don't want to step into this classroom with, you know, 15 germ carriers or up to 30 germ carriers that we don't know what their situation is at home. You know, I personally come home to my daughter, but there are many teachers that come home to people that are at high risk, teachers that are high risk themselves, that have small children that have not been exposed, that are, you know, taking care of elderly adults, what have you. There are so many that are at risk, and to have that expectation put on the teachers when, you know, without consideration for what they are going through or what may happen because of it is the height of hubris. I think it's awful.
And it's really unfair. I mean, we're hearing about how healthcare workers directly dealing with COVID patients are hard pressed to find the proper personal protective gear that they need. What are we going to supply our teachers with when they just,
Exactly.
are we just savagely throwing these people into classrooms saying, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you don't know it's there, but good luck,
Right.
God bless, you know? And then when that teacher gets sick, and they will, who's coming? You know, who are we?
Right.
Do we just have like this big surplus of people that are equipped to teach our kids? And then when that teacher's sick and doesn't know it for 2 weeks, and 50% of the class, 1% of the class gets sick, now they're going home, and now their family's sick. And like, what are the things that are going to get put in place to deal with those issues? Is it going to be this broad, phone call every day? Your kid may or may not have been exposed to COVID today because we had
Right.
15 more exposures. And me working in chain grocery stores, we see the alerts every day. There's another grocery store, and they've had several people infected. And these are places where mostly adults are going in, not taking kids. They understand the rules of staying 6 feet apart. They're not needing to be reminded of that. There's buttons everywhere where you stand. There's plexiglass up to protect the cashier. And so these are experiences where we're so mindful and so aware of what's happening. What about the kids? And then
Right.
you've got parents at home complaining about masks and how horrible they are. So now the teacher is put in a position to have to discipline your kid to get them to be safe, to protect everyone around them. It just seems like we haven't taken enough time to really iron out a lot of the particulars if we are going to move forward while the virus is at its height.
Yeah, and I feel
And
like we're very lucky. I'm sorry to step on you. I just wanted to make one note, that I feel like we're very lucky in that we do have, the states have some autonomy as far as this goes, and we have Gavin Newsom, who's been very conscious of what all this is going to take to make sure that it does, that we're, as safe as we can be. Unfortunately, so much of the state has decided that they're not going to listen. But that's, as far as the schools are concerned, the schools have a lot more freedom than I think some other states' schools do, um, to not follow the Trump administration, but to follow CDC regulations. So.
yeah, I think I'm pretty fortunate in that being a part of it. I'm a student and an employee in the CSU system, and they've been generally just really great about just being safe, right? Like I'm fortunate just living in a state that is generally, I think, on the smarter side of most things. And I think when it comes to like employee benefits and rights and protections, but also, the CO, the chancellor's office, has been really great about informing us every step of the way about like kind of what they're deciding, what is not really an option for your individual campus and versus what is. And our president has been really great at communicating to us. Thankfully our numbers have been very low. I think a couple of students that are still living on campus right now got infected, but I mean, every step of the way they were protected and they were, quarantined. And it sucks, right? Like there's the other part of me that like wants to go out again just as much as the next person, wants to be back in the classroom just as much as the next student. It sucks that, I'm looking at another semester at home. All the CSUs are at another semester at home. So as a student, I'm home. As an employee, I'm home. And I don't know what the conversation is for spring 2021. So
Yeah.
a year from now, it could be that I'm still at home, and it sucks. And it sucks even more when you realize that it's really the lack of caring, the lack of emphasis coming from the Trump administration that trickles down to other people that have made it so polarizing that really keep prolonging this date, this magical date that we're all going to get to go back,
We're fighting over masks. Something so
We're fighting over a lot
stupid
of
and
really
basic.
stupid things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the time that, I mean, if it's that important, and this is what's funny to me, because I feel like there's a lot of smart people out there that can figure out that if we get in line and do it the way we're supposed to, that actually gets us to where they're crying about being right now. And it's like, okay, you can do it nice or do it twice. you know? So
Right.
we can actually take the time now, set the classrooms up for success, protect our teachers, protect our kids, and then enter in with a little bit more faith in what's happening. And right now, just like everything else, everything's so scattered and divided, and one area has a great idea, the other people don't care, and nobody's talking. And I almost feel like COVID is just thriving off of the division that's happening right now in our country, because while everybody's fighting over a mask or school, this thing is still spreading and people are still dying. And so it's like we have the resources to provide Chromebooks. I do realize there are a lot of people that don't have aged children that can stay home and, do it
Yeah.
on their own. And so I realize that that is an issue. And I realize that for the time being, there is provisions put in place for people that can't work.
Well, when you think about
That's the thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
think about what other countries are doing to support their people. I mean, I read a thing. What was it? England or just voted in an extension of 6 months of $2,000 a month for every single person. Every single person, $2,000 a month. And I mean, that's not going to cover everything, but at least make it so you can at least cover your rent and pay some towards your electricity or whatever, and feed your kids. And I don't understand why. I mean, what was it? 4 months ago, we got $1,200, and that's supposed to cover us to what? to do what?
I feel like that was the drill. I think we had all the right ideas, the funding, the time at home. Hey, if someone, if you're renting, don't worry about it. We'll make sure you're protected. If you're working and you can't, we'll make sure you're protected. So we had like that fire drill. So if this happens, this is what we're gonna do. So now I feel like we're actually in the thick of it, and I'm not hearing that same communication. And so that is spurring people to want to just throw their kids into the fray, and that's spurring people to want to open up the economy. So they're panicking. Yeah, I mean, if your sole source of income is your barber shop and it's closed, yeah, you're gonna open it because you got to survive. Because $1,200 4 months ago is not going as far as I guess they think it does.
No,
Weird.
no, doesn't do it. Does not do it. And I got to tell you, I mean, I had, this was in 2008. I had the swine flu when it was going around. I'm like one of the few people. Viruses love me, and I had the swine flu, and I had a daycare, and every single one of my parents did not care that I had a potentially deadly virus at home. They had to go to work. And so their kids, well, of course, 2 of them are the ones that I actually caught it from. So, but they brought all of my kids that I babysat at that time came to my house while I had the swine flu.
And they dropped their kid off probably knowing they were sick because they had to go to work. So what do you think is going to happen in the school system when people got to go to work and the kids saying, I have a sore throat, Mom, or I don't feel so good, I have a headache. Okay, well, you'll be fine. Call me, call me if you need to go to the nurse's office, and they're going to get dropped off. And it's all about them. It's every man for themselves right now as far as survival goes financially. Putting people in a bad spot.
And exactly. I mean, when you have work for a job where you say, I can't work, my kid's sick. Well, fine. We'll give you somebody. Somebody else can work your job. Go home. That's. Of course, you're gonna go to work because you still got to feed your other kids.
I think that's been happening in the grocery stores, and why we're seeing such a high number there because you got to go.
Were you going to say something else, Olivia? I'm sorry.
A while ago, but I forgot what it was. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Next topic. Are we moving on? You guys are going to love this one. Kanye for president. Did you say pass? Pass. Okay, this is what Eleanor had to say about it. My other daughter, she said, Kim Kardashian would be the first lady.
Yeah, it's like it's not even. It's like I was angry at first. I mean, I still like it's I'm angry about it. And I don't want to talk about it because like Kim Kardashian as first lady is like the least of my worries. I mean, because the first lady now, you know what I mean? So I don't,
This is true.
so, you know what I mean? And I feel like this is so just very familiar to 4 years ago. And the fact that people are even hashtagging it, memeing it, joking about it, they need to stop. They need to stop. It's not funny. They need to shut that shit down.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. And that's fair. Moving on.
I do wish there was another option. That's for sure. I really wish there were another option. But
Well, I mean,
option I'm looking for.
thanks
Even
Trump
if it's
for
shut
making
down,
a complete mockery of the office of the president, so that it makes a Kanye West possible.
yeah, no. The fact that it was a joke even when he was running, because remember how many people wrote in Harambe? Now that people have this idea in their heads that Kanye could or could have been or whatever,
right?
Like that alone. So he just needs to shut his mouth and go away, and that whole family needs to just go away for a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's been a slippery slope, that's for sure. This is getting crazier and crazier. Yeah.
It's really sad. I don't know. There's this feeling of disbelief about the whole thing. Yeah. Speaking of our next topic, no, this was last weekend. We didn't do a segment last weekend because of the holiday. But this was the president's address at Mountain Rushmore. I don't know if any of you knew any of the things that he said at that point, or listened to it or heard excerpts. Anybody? Yes, no. Little snippets. Well, essentially, it's the left's fault for everything bad that's happening in the world because we are anarchists and extremists and rioters and looters, and we are the ones that are doing all the stuff that's making America horrible. The teachers, in particular, because we're all teaching an extreme leftist idea of what America is supposed to be. We're changing history to fit our narrative, and indoctrinating, his word, indoctrinating our kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone that's smart and kind of is really able to synthesize this man for who he is, can see like he's really just grasping at this point. But the dangerous part of it is that like so many people are not able to synthesize or like really understand the dude comprehensively, like in like this just the monster that he is. And they're going to believe it, or they don't believe it, but they see how what he's saying can benefit them because they're probably the 1% with a lot of money and a lot of power that can manipulate what we have access to. And so they're either going to use it to their advantage or they're going to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, he thrives on the fact that his followers are exactly that. They are followers. I have heard more recently people that are kind of saying, I went too far a little bit there, reading tweets where some of his followers are kind of second guessing where he's coming from and where he's trying to go with some of the things he says. But I think for the most part, it's like in one ear, out the other with him. I don't think anyone's expecting anything brilliant to come out of the guy. In fact, I think they love that he's totally out for lunch, and so I think I was a little hurt when he did say what he said about teachers, because it's almost like he's so good at overgeneralizing and just lumping people together. Like the way he talks about his people as American people is really so sad, and a lot of the division, most of the division is coming from his divisive acts and the things that he says, and kind of conditioning people to just go hard on the other side. If you're not rooting for the same guy, it's kind of like away with you, screw you. And so I see so much like heartlessness in the response to the things that he says. People just eat it on up. But as far as history and teaching a false narrative and corrupting children's minds, and it's like, hi pot, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's like, hello, do you realize what has been left out or omitted from the history books? Do we realize that we're teaching half truths as it is right now when it comes to the history of our company or our country? Like, who's aware of the fact that a lot of things that he says is made up off the top of his head, like that he doesn't even like
Right.
review some facts before he gets up and talks.
No,
And so at this
that's
point,
true.
I don't take him seriously. I feel like he's making America a mockery, to be honest. I just think that the role of the president, which is the highest position in our country, is being held at such a low standard at this point. I don't even really tune in. I don't even take the time to listen because I don't actually think he has much to contribute in the way that we grow as a country. So,
Yeah. Well, that was us. Final thoughts.
If we're waiting for leadership up above, we'll be waiting for a long time. And I do think as us as humans, as Americans, we're gonna have to learn how to maybe sidestep a lot of what's coming out of his mouth and come together on a different platform. And having discussions like these, I hope continue, and people maybe glean something from it that spurs another conversation, and brings about some unity, because that's where we're lacking right now. It's just we need to unite.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate, the we have the ability to do this. I really do. I think, so many times, and sometimes it doesn't matter that there are men or it's all men, but I appreciate that we're sticking with women because I think, we have not been given enough of an opportunity to show what we can do in this world. And I'm so looking forward to seeing who Biden chooses as his VP. I'm hoping it's Kamala because I'm hoping that it needs to be somebody that is electable in 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm, I think that she's probably the best choice for that. I think.
Rudolph would be happy with that too, I think.
Huh?
Maya Rudolph would probably approve too.
Yeah. Yes. Probably it'll keep her working for a while.
For a while, yeah. She does a good Kamala Harris.
She does. She's so super talented. I love her.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you ladies and the conversation and I guess, just kind of pay attention to your week so we have things to talk about next week. I don't think that we'll ever have a shortage. Too many things.
No, I don't think so. Jeneece, real quick, how were the scones received at work? Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really kind of mad. She called me to get your address for scones after telling me weeks ago that she wasn't going to mail any scones out.
Oh, I did say that.
Yeah, you did.
They were amazing. They were so good. I'm ashamed of
her broken heart right now.
Well, now that I see how cheap it is to mail it, because it was nothing really, but then she's kind of still relatively close-ish.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be too bad to mail it to Clovis. Now, to send it to, because I sent them to David K. in Oregon, and that to overnight some conchas, they were threatening me with like $150.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we did like a 3-day situation for like 25. But then again, it was a Saturday, and it was so like maybe it was just different factors that were.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Wow.
But anyway, hope everyone has a lovely week.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
can't wait to bake for you guys again. I'll bake for you, Mom.
I can't wait.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, obviously, I need the baking. All right, ladies. Well, thanks again. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, just like it and comment and give us things to talk about. Love you. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
I love you.